It will be great. It will be great that at some point you put your cameras on so I can see your beautiful faces and we can welcome our guest speaker. Today, this is, well, a special interview at the end of this year, this dynamic year. Feel free to, keep your questions for the end of the call so we can have the pleasure of asking Holly or something different than what we have prepared with her for this interview. And I must say that it's not a coincidence that we have this call at the verge of the current currency revaluation, the momentum that is gained by governments, countries, and their corresponding currencies. So I am also I need to admit that since I got engaged in the whole movement of currency revaluation, I always wondered if currency revaluation is possible, probable, or imminent. And I hope this call will help us discover more about what's cooking. Also, I would like to mention that this call is an essential component in understanding how to become a sovereign individual. This would be an enlightened, independent human being who is wise enough to grow, to be, and to share with others. As we know, things are created twice in life, once in our mind and once in the real life. So I welcome you today to create a vision and a purpose so that tomorrow we can start building things in our real life. And with that, I would like to welcome our special guest, Ms. Holly Celiano. And Holly was kind enough to share with me a couple of lines so I can introduce her. Holly, if I miss something, please be patient with me. This is my first interview ever. So I hope everybody would be compassionate with my efforts. So Holly Celiano is a mother, grandmother, and a global influencer, a truth seeker, and has become renowned on the subject of the global currency reset. When she first learned about the global currency reset 13 years ago, something came alive in her, and she knew this was her purpose. Her goal has always been about expanding her consciousness to evolve higher and to help others expand higher in their own path. She co-hosts Healing with Love with Dr. Matthew Singer on how to heal ourselves through love and clearing the emotional body. Amazing. She's here to assist truth seekers, light workers, to understand the new financial system so that when the QFS and the global currency reset take place, those involved are being positioned to use their newfound prosperity for the betterment of humanity. That's the best place that you can be, Holly, with us. Moreover, she has set up New Earth Foundations, a global foundation to assist others in working together to create global projects to heal the Earth. Lovely. So, having said that, Holly, what sparkled your initial interest in currency reset?
I thank you for having me on, and thank you everybody for joining. I know you're all coming from work and you're coming from far and wide, so I appreciate you all coming in to hear this, and thank you for setting this up. I appreciate it. So what sparked me? I had heard about this a long time ago, but I didn't know it was something that you could participate in. I knew there was this global currency reset happening on the planet, but did not know that it was something that, people like us could participate in. And when I heard that we could, and all you had to do was buy, Vietnamese dong or the dinar or Zim or any of the foreign currencies, I got involved. A friend of mine shared this with me, and I wanted to learn all about it. I wanted to know as much as possible as to what this was all about and how we could go and, exchange and partake in this. So I dove in. I was on, back in the day, we didn't have things like this. It would just be calls. You would be on listening for hours and, just trying to gain any little insight and information. And then things have morphed where then, the Telegram rooms and Skype rooms and Zoom chats became available. And I learned so much about it and then met contacts from being involved. People reached out to me, and then I gained even more inside knowledge onto the inner workings on how this works. So that's how I got involved. And I've done my best to not be a hopium dealer, as there are out there, because that to me, it builds people up for false hope. And then it doesn't happen when people say it's going to happen. And then everybody gets discouraged and disappointed. And then they get mad and frustrated. And it creates a real vicious cycle. I was on the hopium train for a very long time. And then I'm like, this is crazy. I've got to stop this. And I need to get my emotions in check and not go on this roller coaster ride that, they're saying it's happening today, tomorrow, this week. And then, here I am 13 years involved in it and it still hasn't happened. So it's really, it's having emotional intelligence to say, I know it's real. I know it's happening, but I'm not going to allow my emotions to control my decision making, because so many people have quit work thinking this was going to happen and they're waiting for it, and now they're in a really bad place in their life because it hasn't happened. So you have to live your life and keep going until this does happen. I've always looked at it as my retirement plan. When it happens, then I'll retire. So I know you had a whole bunch of questions for me. If you wanted to read the questions and then I'll answer them.
Absolutely. I would do exactly this. And thank you for starting let's say, strongly on the call, because before you joined, we just discussed exactly this, that we should be, let's say, emotionally prepared for what is about to come and to happen.
Yes.
And we should not take rash decisions. So having in mind that this group here is quite mixed, and some people know a little bit more, some people know a little bit less. Let's start with something very essential, like if you need to explain currency revaluation to someone with limited knowledge, what would you say?
Okay. So if you have limited knowledge, the world's currencies are not on a level playing field. So what this is doing is putting all of the world's currencies on a level playing field. So no longer you're going to have the superpowers such as the USA being the petrodollar globally that will dictate to other countries, this is what you're going to use for your oil. You have Iraq, which has been suppressed since we went to war with them. Same with Vietnam, same with other countries. Their currencies are very suppressed. So they're going to level up where they'll be on a level playing field with all the world's countries, and their currency will be equal to par. So that's the best way to say. So if there is suppressed currency, then that currency will raise in value to be equal to all the other currencies in the world.
Right, that you mentioned those things. I mean, with this first question, we're building up the glossary, the dictionary that we would be using throughout the call. So thank you for doing that. And then what makes the currency revaluation possible from an economic and geopolitical landscape? Why now?
Okay, so as you know, the BRICS nations, if people are not familiar with that, BRICS has been around, I think, since 2008. And as of January of this year, there's going to be 150 nations that are joining the BRICS. So no longer are we going to have the G7 and the G20 as the superpowers. BRICS is the new superpower. They, this summer, announced that they have a that they are gold backed. So all the countries that join with them will be gold backed or asset backed. And that, as you know, the US fiat dollar is not backed by anything, along with most of the world's currencies are not backed by anything. So now part of BRICS and Basel III and Basel IV is you have to have an asset backed currency to be involved in that. So it could be diamonds, it could be gold, silver, precious metals, minerals that the countries have. And that can be what makes you part of this. So you have to have assets to back your currency. So that is what's making this possible. Then you also have So for those that are new that don't know this, there was a couple of years ago a tunnel found from the Vatican to Jerusalem. There was 150 miles long worth of gold stacked to the ceiling found in that. That is being divided among all the countries to be used for this. Along with that, there's certain trusts put away for humanity when the time was right. The Saint Germain Trust, the Heritage Trust, the Rodriguez Trust, the Monte Cristo Trust. There's countless other trusts that have unbelievable wealth. I mean, the zeros can be, like 60, 70, 100 zeros on the end of what this is. And that's what's backing this. We have been brought up in a society where there is lack of everything. There is more than abundance of everything. And that's what this is stepping into, have access to the abundance on the planet that we've never had abundance, like this given to us.
Amazing. Amazing. You're sharing so much in just this one first question. It's like a whole story that we needed to hear. So actually, I don't have any more questions. We can close the call now.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm kidding. I'm still trying to understand how this currency revaluation would affect the ordinary people, like the little people like us, who are in the country that revaluates their currency, but also outside of this country. I mean, wouldn't everybody become a millionaire suddenly, like overnight?
More than likely, based on what you have, yes. However much you're holding, but there's only globally maybe 15 million people in the world that know about this.
Wow.
And there's over 8 billion people on the planet. So it's really a small segment knows about this.
Wow, incredible. So when the revaluation happens, I guess there will be a process where people would be able to exchange their
Yes.
investment, and then
Yes.
they'll get fiat for that. So how would that
No,
process?
it's not going to be fiat. You will get a gold-backed currency. So each country is going to have their own currency. Let's say you're in Europe and you use the euro. Well, when this goes, every country will have their own currency that will be used. You're not going to have a global currency like the euro. Same with the US. The US has the fiat dollar. We're going to have US notes, USN, United States notes, and they will all be backed by gold. All the currencies for this will be backed by gold.
So we can safely say that the exchange process is predicated by having gold-backed currencies in that particular
Correct.
country.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So we've heard a lot about how this would work in US because most of the channels refer to US and Canada. They're talking about 0800 numbers. They're talking about redemption centers. But actually, most of the people here on the call are from outside of US.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with us what that would look like for people who are outside of, let's say, domestic US and Canada?
So outside of the US, there is not a lot of information on how this will happen. Even within the US, I mean, we talk about, you're going to be at a redemption center, exchange center, you could be on a military base, but it's the most coveted secret because until this happens, they don't want to tip off the cabal on where we're going and how this is going to be done. So even in the US, even though a lot of these channels stem from the US, globally, it's still kept secret. It's very secretive. So we will not know any of the details until this happens on what to do. Most likely, you have exchange centers, or you will be at a tier one bank where you will go. But until this happens, we're not going to get any knowledge prior. And it's also going to be a very simple process. It's not, this very complicated process. It's simple. You go in, you never let your currency out of your sight. When they go take it and they count it, it will be counted in a de la rue machine. You make sure you're there watching it. You don't let them take it and go off to another room. You have a tally what your currency is worth and make sure the number that they come back with matches what you have with that. So until they give you a sheet and you sign off on whatever you're signing off on, you do not let any of that go. Keep an eye on it. You can try to negotiate your rate. You can ask for the contract rates. If you don't ask, you're not going to get. So there are contract rates out there. So ask for them.
Okay. And that's really related to the next question about the rate. I mean, where can we see this? When can we see that?
You will not see the rates until this happens. So there's a lot of different numbers floating around how much the dong is worth, the zim is worth, the dinar is worth, bolivar. Until you're sitting in front of the person doing your exchange, you have no idea what that is. All these numbers put out there are all speculative. A lot of the information put in these rooms are all speculative. So you really need to wait until you're there. You know, I have heard very high rates for the contract rates. So, but again, until I'm sitting there, I have no idea whether it's accurate.
Yeah. You mentioned three currencies, namely you mentioned the dong, you mentioned the dinar, and you mentioned the zim. Is there any order in this? Is there
No, I mean there's way more. There's the bolivar, there's the Indonesia rupiah, there's the Afghani rial, there is Chinese yuan, the Russian ruble. I mean, there's so many other currencies involved in this. The Colombian peso, the Mexican peso. I mean, so many currencies are involved in this. So it's not just those. The big ones are the zim, the dinar, and the dong. That's what most people hear about.
So what makes them group? Sorry, Ping, go ahead.
So it's a domino effect, because each country holds the currency of another country because they're now past, sort of sidelined the dollar. So if one currency revaluates, they have to revalue their own because they're now sitting on a huge amount of currency from another country. So it literally is a financial domino rally.
Well, that's where it becomes, all the countries are going to be in parity with each other. So if one gets revalued, all of them have to revalue to be in parity.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Holly, all of these currencies that you mentioned, can we qualify them as suppressed currencies?
Yes.
Is this what we call them?
Yep. They have been very suppressed.
Yeah, and this is due to various reasons, economical, financial, geopolitical, I guess.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, here we go then to the next one. We've heard that during the exchange process, it might be better to have different QFS accounts for each currency. So what is QFS for those people who don't know yet what that is and why different accounts?
Okay, so the QFS is a quantum financial system. It basically is a ledger system where the gold bars are put on there with their serial numbers, because every gold bar has a serial number. It's put on the QFS, and it is a swift moving system from point A to point B. So no longer is it going to take, say, up to 10 days to do a wire transfer like how it used to be. It's going to be done in seconds. It's a moving from point A to point B. When you go and have your appointment, you're not going to, it's not an account per se that you're given. It is a ledger system backing your currency that you have backed by gold. So they will teach you how to move it off of the QFS, because you can't actually take the funds on the QFS and use it to, say, pay for your bills and whatnot. So you have to be able to move it off of there for your everyday expenses. And there is a training period on how you're going to take it from the QFS and transfer it into like a direct account at a bank, and then be able to pay for your everyday bills. That again, nobody is being trained on that, because until this happens, it's going to be a very kept secret until it does happen, to tell you how to do this. So I don't know if you saw what I put in my room today, that I have, I'm not going to give a lot of details about this, but I have a personal friend of mine that got their NDA 2 days ago, and part of a group, and he is being trained on the QFS, and it is real. So that's all I'm going to say about that. That to me is very, very exciting that he's waited this long, and he's finally, like, he's over the moon excited. So it's telling me we're very close.
Oh, wow, wow.
But there's also, he was saying, you know, and I also put this in my room, they monitor us very carefully, every single thing dealing with this, in all these chat rooms, even the Zoom call, your telephone, everything is monitored. They know what you're saying, they know who you're talking to, and if you violate that, you will have your funds clawed back. It's very strict.
Yeah.
So
You're
there's
talking
certain
about
things
NDA, right?
you don't want to violate your NDA.
Yeah, no,
No.
that's why it's called NDA, right?
Yes.
Don't violate that one.
Yes.
There's certain
And you
reasons.
also don't want to go and show off. You know, you don't want to flaunt your newfound wealth. You want to be very discreet, just kind of blend in. I was told by people that are very wealthy, how you walk around and don't become a target is you just blend in. You blend in like everybody else. You're not out walking around in, you know, designer clothes and dripping in gold and jewels and, you know, driving Lamborghinis and, you know, just showing off that you have money. You just blend in.
Feels like
That is
I'm listening to
surprising, right?
myself.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It feels like I'm listening to myself. I've been telling people exactly the same thing for
Right.
so long.
Indeed, indeed, Pinagi.
Don't tell anyone, don't need to tell anyone. Just
No,
blend in. And, you know, it's like, why, you know, people don't walk around with their pay slips, throwing them at each other, saying, oh, look what
no.
I earned.
No, not at all. And you don't want people to know what you have, because especially most of the people have never had wealth
Mm.
of this nature. So if people find out that you know, are a multimillionaire, you're going to have everybody coming out of the woodwork wanting you to fund them for whatever and give them money. And that's the poverty mentality. That's why the lottery winners lose everything, because they've never had it and they feel bad for everybody. So they give it all away, and then they wind up in a worse situation.
This reminds me so much that next to the work that we are doing to, you know, elevate minds and share with people what we know, is also the education behind how to go about with wealth, which, as we discussed just before you joined, is never taught at school.
No.
So we're self-taught, and somehow we need to help each other so that we keep each other accountable.
Yes.
For being wise, because that's another level that we need to achieve.
You know, I was telling a friend this the other day, that we've been waiting so long for this to happen, that there is a stress on the wait period. But when this happens, the responsibility that's upon us then with this wealth, and to manage it properly and to do projects and what we're going to do, is even greater than this waiting, not having it. There is such a responsibility with having this wealth. And you really need to be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically ready to be able to handle it. And that's, I don't know if you guys know John Dowling. I did a show with him 2 weeks ago. And I just told him, I go, we really need to do a show to prepare people mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically for this. So we have that set up on January 8th.
Wow, amazing. That will be great. I
Yes.
mean, I must say that the show that you did with Joe Dowling was the inspiration for this call, because
Oh,
I
thank
said,
you.
well, Holly would be the right person to talk to, and I apparently had a connection already with you.
Yes,
So
you
here we
did.
go. That's great. And you already touched on the subject of projects. So when we go to exchange our, let's say, investment, our currencies, do we need to have projects? And if we don't, what do we do?
So it's highly recommended that you do a project, but you do not need a project in order to exchange. I would have something, just written down. If you guys don't have projects, I have my New Earth Foundations. I don't know if you heard the recording that I've done with my partner on that. It's posted in my rooms, it's pinned. We've done 3 calls on that, which goes into detail. We're going to have a whole team to do projects from the ground up globally. So there's the 12 major projects that President Trump has talked about. There will be hundreds of offshoots of that project. And it's going to be comprehensive, where you can do your project. You will have a model if you want to take the model and do it yourself, or you can use our whole management team that we have to go and do the project. So you can list New Earth Foundations as your project at your appointment if they ask for it. But it is recommended that you do have a project, but you don't need a project in order to exchange.
Thank you, Holly. If you don't mind, I would kindly ask you after the call, when time permits, of course, to share with us some links and references to projects and groups that you're, leading or following, so that I can share also with this team.
Okay.
That will be great. And then related to this is just maybe a side question. Now that the IMF has announced the rising of the value of the dinar and the potential of the country, what's your feeling about happening this revaluation sooner or later?
Obviously, it's going to be sooner, because the Iraqi CBI has already announced come January 1, they're no longer using the US dollar. So all the BRICS nations have also said they're not using the US dollar. US petrodollar is done, dead in the water. So something needs to happen sooner rather than later, because the US is going to be left like on its face. So this tells me how close we are to all of this happening.
Okay, help me to understand one thing here. Knowing that Russia and USA are the countries, the biggest, let's say, holders of Iraqi dinars, once the dinar becomes higher in terms of value and the exchange happens in these 2 countries, wouldn't their own currencies also raise in value?
So I don't know if you heard me say this. Russia already did GCR 2 years ago. So they've already done that. Their currency still has not completely revalued because that's waiting on the GCR, the global currency reset, for everybody to be on a level playing field. The US dollar is actually, we're going to do away with the US dollar. It's not, we're going to a new currency. You have to be asset backed in order to be part of the BRICS, part of the QFS. So any country that is not asset backed or gold backed, they have to have that. That's one of the mandatory things, that you have to have a certain amount of assets to back your currency in your country. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm conscious about the time and your commitment to us, so I would like to keep a kind
I'm
of.
fine. I'm fine. Okay. I'm doing good.
That's good. Then I would like to move to a set of questions which are more related to, let's say, the global economic landscape that we are part of. So a question would be, are there any risks associated with currency revaluation? And how can governments mitigate those risks? Would there be governments or other entities?
The only risk associated with this global currency reset is your safety. On the other side of this, you want to to make sure that you are safe, that you have yourself protected. If you think there's scam artists now, they've been waiting for this. They're going to be, they're waiting in the wings to scam you. They've been thinking of ways how to scam you. So don't jump on any opportunity that you see that you think might be legit or that somebody's trying to sell you. Take your time. Don't rush to do anything. There is no urgency to rush out and go do something at all. So go slow and steady, and you want to protect your wealth. The biggest thing on the other side is protecting your wealth.
Yeah. Thank you for this reminder, because it's really important
It
for us
is.
to really stay on track and also, well, plan the way ahead. We have, proven leaders in this group here, and we are working together in teaching each other of how to go forward. That will be part of our, self-learning to go there. Ricky, please allow me a couple of more questions before I give you the mic. Okay. Thank you for that. So one more question then. The currency revaluation, how would it affect the financial stability in a country?
When this happens, the financial stability in all countries will be thriving. I mean, they're going to be booming. The whole world will be booming when this happens, because they're basically kicking out the Rothschilds, the gangster bankers out of all the countries that have suppressed the countries and have controlled the countries. There's a book that was written, I forget who did it, Economic Hitman. So if a country did not go along with this cartel banking, they would send in an economic hitman to go and destroy the country's economy so that they would go along with their banking system, the, Rothschild, Rockefeller banking. And they then control the country. The country has to do according to what that banking cartel is dictating. So they're basically kicking the money changers out of all the countries and setting everybody free.
Okay, so the people who would be supporting the currency revaluation, how would they change overnight? I mean, how would they kick out let's say, the central banks or the commercial banks?
It's being done all behind the scenes. It's being done so seamlessly, and that's why this has taken so long, so as not to have major economic swings globally. They have done it at such a slow snail's pace and mirrored everything so that when they flip the switch, you're really not even going to know there was much of a change.
Well, I guess if there was a stranger joining our call, he would be thinking that we are talking fairy tales and,
Absolutely.
fiction. Yeah, that's why we kind of carefully plan this call so that it doesn't sound like, science fiction on this. Okay, so you already mentioned the relationship with BRICS. You mentioned also a couple of words that I would like to clarify with you, like the cabal, the black hats, the white hats. Can you tell us a bit more who those are?
Okay, so the White Hats are a group of, it's based on military generals globally, and there's other civilians and other people that saw over 70 years ago what was happening, what was being put in place. And they came up with a plan on how to kick them out, because the cabal or Illuminati, which is made up of elites, you've heard of the 13 families that make that up, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. They control this. You have the Vatican, which is the religious branch. You have the City of London, which is the financial branch. And you have the US, Washington, D.C. is the military branch. Those three work in harmony with each other and control the world. And that's known as the cabal, through the control of these 13 families. And they have infiltrated your governments. They've infiltrated corporations, the banking, the pharmaceuticals, your food, your air, every single thing. So it's in getting rid of the cabal, they have to get rid of all of the influence in all those areas. It's not just changing the money, it's not just the financial system, because these people are blackmailed in order to be part of this. And if you don't go along with what they want, they kill you or they kill your family members. So what we're involved in is, it is serious stuff, which is why you really need to protect yourself on the other side of this.
Thank you again for stressing this out. So maybe my last question would be, knowing what you just said, and all the disinformation, misinformation, and lack of information, how can we filter the facts from the noise?
Well, there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation infiltrated in these communities with truth. And how do you find the truth in all what's put out there? Well, one of my contacts has told me, whenever I come to him with stuff, he's like, Holly, let's sit down and use some logic. Like, let's talk about it. Does this make sense? And we'll talk through it. And I'm like, nope, doesn't make sense. He's like, then discard it, throw it out. He's gotten me to think very rationally. He's gotten me to think outside the box, because there is so much nonsense put out in these rooms, and it gets very confusing. Sadly, so many people, jump on whatever they're hearing and think, oh my God, this is it, or this is truth. And it doesn't make sense. So I don't put any nonsense out, and I'm not, tooting my own horn at all, but I'm really, really careful with what I put out. If you follow me, I'm very cautious with any information I put out. I'm not a hopium dealer out there. I don't want to give people false hope. And I don't put stuff out unless I have it vetted and verified. So for people that hear all this stuff, I would just say, take the information and try to go through, does it make sense? Does any of what they're saying make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, then discard it, just because they say, something, because you have cabal in these groups and they're also feeding misinformation. Like, our whole movement's been infiltrated.
Well, good to know, even though it's not a surprise really, to know that there are always people who are naysayers, provocateurs, challengers.
Yes.
Thank you, Holly, for this. I would like to open the floor for questions, if you don't mind. So just take one by one. I see Ricky has her hand up. Ricky, I hope your hand is not tired of holding it so far.
Thank you.
So please,
thank you to you and thank you to Holly. I'm from UK. I just want to ask two quick questions. One, do we need to walk into the meeting with a trust? Is it necessary? Is it wise? And if so, what sort of trust?
Okay, so it is highly recommended to have a trust. And the reason being is it's for your protection. So what a trust does is it insulates you from anybody to come and say, go after your money. And what a trust also does is you don't own anything, you control it. So you want, especially when you're going to have, large sums of money, you don't want to be where you're a target, where they can come after you and sue you for anything. And you don't want your name out there. So a trust you will buy things in your trust name. You'll buy houses, cars, boats, planes, whatever in your trust name. And you want a different trust for every single thing you are buying. You don't want to keep them all lumped together. So if you go to your appointment, it is recommended that you have a trust. And I know a lot of people cannot afford trusts. It's best to have an irrevocable trust, because a revocable trust, they can go and still take your assets from you. An irrevocable, they cannot open it and have your stuff stolen. So I know in the US we have what's called Rocket Lawyer to get a free trust. I don't know what you have in other countries, so I can't help you there with what to do.
Yeah.
I also recommend all these people out in these rooms that are selling trust. I would steer clear of anybody selling trust in these communities, my personal take on that. So I would just see if there's something free in the meantime in your country to get a trust. If you can't,
as long as it's irrevocable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. A second question. Bear with me a moment. Yes. When we attend the meeting, but before that, will we have the safe link as they spoke about, or is it just something that somebody sent the rumor away?
So as far as whether it's going to be a safe link, whether it's going to be an 800 number, whether you're going to get an email, if you're in a group, if you signed up for any groups, those groups will get an email. If you're not in a group, I would recommend signing up for Dinar Recaps or Bruce the Big Call Universe.
Yeah,
and you should get an email on how to go about doing your exchange. And there should be information for every country on what to do.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ricky, for your questions. Thank you for that. Simone, I see you next, holding your hand.
Okay. Hi, Holly.
Hello.
Hi. I just want to say thank you for doing this and approaching it with some logic and rationale, because it's a minefield.
Yes, it is.
My question for you is, I've been a part of a group now, and a lot of it I've been questioning, especially recently. Can you just clear up for me? Do you need to be attached to a group in order to have a project?
You don't have to be attached to a group to have a project. You can have your own project.
Yes, right. So I can just, so I've got my own currency and I've got my own Zim, so I can just go in there with my project that's I've already printed out, ready to take with me. So
Absolutely.
I don't need to be attached to a group at all.
No.
Fabulous. Thank you for clearing that up.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Simone. A very relevant question for those who actually are wondering how to approach, the meetings for exchange. Thank you for that. Hadasah. Wow, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Really. Hi there.
Hi. Oh, thank you, Holly. That was very informational and an eye opener. My question is regarding, I live in London, but I'm of Nigerian descent, and I know that in the 80s, the Nigerian naira was more valuable than the dollar, and at the moment it's been devalued. Recently, June, July, when the new president was sworn in, it was further devalued. So at the moment, you're looking at 1,000 plus to the dollar and pounds. Now I'm trying to work out in my head how all of this would, how it could impact a country like Nigeria and other African nations, where obviously we know they're very rich in mineral resources and different, and also I know there's you have fraudsters everywhere or corrupt politicians, but that's something that we know is quite paramount in Nigeria, and I'll speak for Nigeria. So I just wonder what's your opinion on the country. I know someone, for instance, who selling a couple of houses and very lucrative areas, and they have hundreds of millions, like $1 billion, and they're looking at converting to dollars or pounds. And I'm thinking, no, keep the bulk in the naira, because this might be happening.
The African nations also have been very suppressed, and they will be revaluing, not just, Zimbabwe, but all of them. So, most people don't know about this, though. So it's hard to try to tell somebody, oh, keep your money there because it's going to revalue. People would think you're crazy unless you're dialed into this. Most people don't even get this or understand it. And, I've shared it with friends and families, and they all think I'm, just out of my mind, which it's okay. One day they'll say, oh, she did know what she was talking about. But I would just, if you do have that, keep it, because it will revalue.
I guess what my question isn't more for individuals. I mean, as government, is this something that they would have to do regardless? Because
they're all going to be part of the BRICS. They're moving towards that. So yeah, they will have, the governments are all have to be part of this.
Okay.
There is a restructuring of governments going on globally behind the scenes that most of us are not privy to, that because you have the world stage, which, they've been saying we're watching a movie. Well, all this has been done behind the scenes, a lot of this stuff, and it's just rolling out in real time where we're watching it happen. And it's frustrating for those of us that are awake, that have been waiting, keep saying, how much longer? This is just crazy. But there was not enough people awakened to be able to have this rolled out. I have said it's based on our consciousness, and I know people get really tired of hearing that, but there is truth in that. There's a certain percentage of awakened population that we have to have on the planet for this to happen. If you don't have enough people awakened to be able to handle this, then when we do this shift, we can't go back ever the way we were. And there is a one chance to get this right. So they have to make sure the timing of everything is lined up in sync with having this happen.
Thank you for that. Pin, you're next.
Thank you. I just thought I'd like to mention a few things that came up. Probably not more of a question, more just to let everybody know that in our group, we do have a foundation set up. It's already registered, has banks accounts and everything. So people are welcome to use that or use Holly's. It doesn't really matter. The point is, if we're all going to do some good, it doesn't really matter whose foundation you use or what name it's called. The point is, we actually do something. And what was the other thing? The trusts, I did. The irrevocable trust I need to look into, but that's definitely the trusts I knew about, but not the irrevocable one. So thank you, Holly, for that bit of information. I've actually only just subscribed to Ray Renfrew's group, TNT Super Fantastic, or whatever he called himself.
Well, just use caution with that. That was the first group when I first got involved in this 13 years ago. And I've stepped far away from that. So just, use caution.
Don't believe me, I believe nobody.
Okay, good.
To me, I believe nobody. I'll take information. If it gets mentioned a few times, then I'll go and do some research on it. And then I want to know more. But until then, everybody is, misinformation is the name of the game. And
Certainly
it's from every single angle. And I suppose probably to everyone here, it's like we're all watching a Punch and Judy show. You think you're watching Punch and Judy, but there's somebody else behind the scenes doing something else.
Mhm.
That's really what's being played out globally.
Yeah, exactly.
And the group will be more important. Exactly what Holly said at the beginning. This group will be way more important, not now, while we're all getting excited, but afterwards. Because afterwards we have to deal with what we've... If you watch film The Big Short, when the two guys at the end are dancing, thinking they've won, they didn't really win. They bet on the whole world economy going to shit. And basically, that's what we bet on too.
Right.
So guess what? It's something we can actually do some good with what's about to come.
Absolutely. You know, the whole thing is those of us that have been in these rooms for a long time have developed basically an extended family, because even, you know, many of us, our own family thinks we're crazy. They don't understand us at all. And on the other side of this, it's more important to stick together because we've been through something that very few people have ever been through and experienced it. And they don't know what we have been through all these years in this waiting and going through the process and then having this wealth. So we're in an extended family for life. And that's how we're going to survive and thrive, is sticking together. So it's really more important that all of us stay, you know, together on the other side of this, working together. And that's how you'll also keep your wealth, because you'll be sharing information that will help each other.
Absolutely. So again, thank you for doing this call. It's been definitely interesting.
You're very welcome. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you, Pin, for joining with your questions. You've been leading our group for so long. I think maybe one of the next things that we can do is just do a little bit of research on trusts so that we can bring more information and education to the people. Any other questions, guys? I'm looking at the clock. Any other questions? Ricky, second round. Let's do that.
Thank you. Do we have time to research for irrevocable trust? What if it's going to happen tomorrow, just for instance? Are we able to walk without the trust and just say, put it on hold until such time that I'm able to get a trust? Or not?
Hold on, I'm just putting my rooms in the comments section.
Thank you, Holly. I will publish them later as well.
Okay. In the comments section. And those are on Telegram, those rooms I just posted. As far as the trusts, I do believe you still have time to get them done before this happens. So definitely research and do it. If you do not have time, at least have like a power of attorney. So like a living trust. So if you, let's just say you got killed as soon as you left your bank appointment, you have that money tied up in a power of attorney where it's not going to be held up in litigation. They know who it's going to.
Yeah,
So
I've got
you
something
put
written.
something real quick online.
Mhm.
Let's see, that sun is blocking me. So you could do something quickly to just protect yourself if you can't do a trust.
Right. Yes, I do have something that I printed myself, just in case. So
Okay.
if they can sign it there and then before I leave.
Right.
That's all, but it's not
Yeah.
a trust.
That's all. You really
like a
just
will.
want to protect yourself. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you again. Yana, you're next. Hey there.
Holly, first of all, Nasco, thank you so much for putting this together. And Holly, thank you for shedding a lot of clarity. I've been following this for a very long time, and I don't mind saying that I'm still kind of trying to sort through everything. If I could just ask you to return back to the QFS for a minute. A lot of the preparation that I've been seeing posted in the different groups is for every different currency that people have, there are people recommending that we set up a bank account separately for each of those. And so I'd like your take on that. And also, how would the QFS play into that? Because let's say I rock up there with 3 different currencies. Is it all going to end up in one QFS account jumbled together, or I don't even know how to phrase the question. If you can,
I know what you're asking.
Okay.
As far as that goes, there's still a lot of not specific information on the QFS being given how the accounts are going to be handled or set up. And they're doing that deliberately because they don't want the cabal to know or to have an upper hand in any of this. So a lot of this is done very quietly until you get notification and go to your appointment. From my understanding on the QFS, it's basically just a ledger account that's going to house all of your backed currencies go on there backed by gold bars. The different accounts, I have heard that, like for example, you want Zim, dinar, in separate accounts. There should not be a problem to set up separate accounts because the Zim is a bond. It's going to be handled separately than the currencies. So, again, until you're at your bank appointment, sitting with the person that's doing your exchange and tells you, well, this is how it's going to actually be done. There's not information because anybody that signed an NDA isn't going to come back and say, oh, well, this is what I did and this is what you're going to do, because they're in violation of their NDA, and nobody will risk that. Even my person that told me that they got their NDA, I just told them, do not even risk anything. Thank you for telling me, but don't put yourself in harm's way by sharing anything else. I don't want you to hurt yourself because we're all being watched. They know, they're monitoring everything that is said. So a lot of this, we just have to wait until we're at our appointment.
So do we set up bank accounts ahead of time just in case, or no?
No, because they need to be linked into the QFS. So how they do that, there is an education process that they will teach you from your QFS to your bank account, and they should do that at your appointment.
Okay, so that's one thing I don't have to worry about. Thank you so much. Another question with regards to the Zim. A lot of people refer to it just Zim. Other people, like you just said, Zim bonds. Is it the same thing?
Yes.
Or it is the same thing. So if a person has a Zim like 100 trillion or 25 trillion or whatever, it's the same thing as a bond.
It is. It is on bond paper. It was a bond written. Most people did not know it was a bond, but it is an actual bond.
Okay. Have to go look and check if mine actually says bond, but okay.
It's a bearer bond.
On that same note that says 100 trillion Zim with the rocks on it and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
it's a bearer bond note.
Awesome. And the last question, back to the trusts again. If we don't have it set up, can we still set it up after we do the exchange?
You can. Now, there's also been talk, if you don't have a trust, because if you have over $1 million that you will be depositing, that will be what you exchange at. Anybody that has over $1 million needs to have a trust. You may get a bank trust. if you don't have one. I personally would not want the bank to give me a trust because I don't know what they're going to have in it. They might have language written in there. You're not going to have time to go through it and, scrutinize what they have. So if you can be prepared yourself prior, it's better to do that.
Okay. And we would put all of it, all the different currencies into one trust.
Yes.
And then from there, we can then have the trust dispose of it as we want. Is that accurate?
So then what you'll want to do is set up different trusts for anything you're going to buy. You want everything kept in a different trust. You don't want one huge trust that has all your holdings.
Okay, but to go into the appointment, are you saying that we should have separate trusts already set up?
To go into the appointment, you can have one trust.
And then from there,
Then set up different trusts when you go purchase things. Yes.
okay, so even if it is an irrevocable trust, from there, we will be able to then send it out to other trusts?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
Basically, you'll have like a master trust, which will be kind of like a circle and like a hub of a wheel. And off of that, you're going to have other trusts that are spokes that are all separate, and you will purchase everything off of that.
okay, and are you still okay for one more question?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, so that's trusts. There's also been people advising that we set up LLCs.
Mhm.
Where do you stand on LLCs and trusts, LLCs?
You
Or
can do
trusts?
LLCs. Some are more, inclined to do an LLC versus a trust. It's really just your preference. Both offer insulation and protection. So, and that is your whole thing going forward once you exchange, is to protect yourself.
Right, right.
You're really going to be focusing on your protection.
Okay.
Well,
Oh, sorry, one last question that just came up, taxes.
Yep.
On the one hand, we've been hearing that with NESARA and GCR, there's going to be debt forgiveness and the taxes are going to be done away with. Then I'm also been hearing that we should set aside half of what we exchange to put towards paying taxes. Do you have any sense of
So
what's up
this
with that?
revaluation of currency is a tax-free event. You are not being taxed on this whatsoever. So that's a misnomer going around.
Oh,
As far as NESARA and GCR, when that happens, the IRS in the US will be going away. You're not going to be paying taxes. Other countries, if you pay taxes in other countries, that will go away with GCR. All the credit cards, mortgages, student loans, car loans, all of that will be wiped out with NESARA and GCR. The reason being is that's on the old ledger system, which is that old money system. All that was set up on the old ledger system. When you go to a brand new banking financial system, you have to have a clean slate. You can't transfer debts on a fiat system over to an asset-backed system, because everything that was done on this fiat system is fraudulent. So it's got to be wiped clean.
okay, great. That's me done. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Happy holidays and a brilliant new year.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Too much golden nuggets today. Simone, once again.
Hi, Holly. Is it correct that the Zim can only be used for projects?
No. That's a misnomer. There's been the 80-20 rule, It's always been 80% needs to be for projects and 20% for you. I was just on a call this week and somebody was saying, oh, no, it's 80% for you and 20% goes to projects. And your Zim is yours. They're not going to keep money out of your Zim for projects.
Okay, thank you. I've just got so much programming to undo from this group that I've been in.
There is crazy stuff in all these groups that I just shake my head and I'm like, oh dear God. So
Yeah.
many people are going to be so confused with all this information.
Yeah, I call it more of a cult, I think.
You know, some of these, so here's the thing with a lot of these groups, they want you to join them, these groups, and they tell you this information, you know, like I've heard of many of these groups that, oh, well, if you're part of this group, 11% needs to go for projects, you know, the group project. Well, that's not true. That's illegal. If they go and they try, if you're part of a group and they try to keep money out of your exchange, that's not supposed to happen. So anybody that's telling you, you know, in this group, the group project has 11% that goes to humanitarian projects. I've heard 25% goes to humanitarian projects. So it's just, again, all these con groups just trying to steal money. And it makes me so crazy because there's enough money to go around that you don't have to try to steal from people.
Yeah. So would, like the previous lady was saying, so would the Zim have its own account and a scheduled payout?
So on the scheduled payout, it depends on, you know, really what the number is that we get. We don't know how much that Zim note is going to be worth. So is it 1-to-1? I don't know. Is it 11 million, 45 million, 100 million? We don't know what each note's going to be. So there could be a scheduled payout based on whatever the size is that it is redeemed at.
Okay, so it's not specifically can only be spent on projects.
No.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Simone. Ricky?
Sorry about this. I should have got all my question in one go, but hey ho. Do you think, Holly, in your honest opinion, do you think we will have to wait another year for all this?
In my honest opinion, and I don't do dates or rates, but in my honest opinion, based on what's going on with Iraq, based on what I know with things that I am not privy to talk about, that I have been told, no.
No.
Not at all.
Thank
Do
you.
I see us going by the end of the year? More than likely into the early part of 2024. And I know that's not what people want to hear, and I know everybody's tired of it, but you know, if you look at what is being done with Iraq and the BRICS country, come January 1, they're not using the US dollar. Something needs to happen. You know, we are coming up against a really hard line where something is going to happen. So as far as, you know, is it going to happen before Christmas? I mean, anything is possible because there are certain things that we don't know about that it could just be sprung on us, you know? So I believe in miracles. I believe anything is possible. But if you ask me, I would probably say into 2024 would be my timeline, you know, like the first, towards the end of January, anytime between now and the end of January.
Can we make it the 3rd of January, please?
Is that your birthday?
Yes. That would be the best time of my
What
life.
did I know?
You know me so well. Thank you so very much. This is You know, so many people needs help, for goodness sake.
Oh
Come
my
on.
gosh, yes. The other thing I want to tell everybody is, you know, so many of these groups put out so much stress on this whole process.
Mm.
It is such an easy process. If you go and you travel overseas, you take your currency at a currency exchange place, you trade it in, you get the country's currency, and you go spend it as you want. Same thing with this. It's not this, you know, very convoluted, you know, all these different stations and, you know, getting blood samples and urine analysis and, you know, all this stuff that they kind of make it like it's so involved. You know, it's such a simple process. It really is. They will put you on the QFS, you get it counted, learn how to have a bank account, and pretty much that's it.
Now, really, will it be a exchange center or will it be a bank?
That we don't know. It depends. I have heard if you have Zim or other bonds, you will probably be at an exchange center. If you just have a currency, more than likely you'll be at a bank.
Okay. Will I need to travel abroad for that, or I can do
What
it in my
country
own
are you
country?
in?
UK.
No, actually, I have heard friend of mine spoke to me last week that they know of a top UK bank. I'm not saying any names.
That's all right.
They've been under an NDA for 3 years, setting up a redemption center, and it's ready to go. So that was in the UK. So there's all these things being done. People are under NDAs and they don't talk. It's very strict. So you will not hear about the details until this happens.
Because John Downing, he mentioned in his talk not long ago that forget the redemption centers, it will be a bank. So this is really
It very well could be a bank, but if you have them, I'm hearing that may be handled differently.
Okay, I've got you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
That's it. I'm not going to ask again.
Ask away. You guys had me, so ask away.
Oh, we're going to use your time.
Oh,
Holly.
use me.
With care and love. Hey, Yana, you're next.
Hey, thank you. I'm back. Another thing that I've been hearing about is that when we go to redeem or exchange our currencies, that we will be able to set up an appointment for a med bed. Now, is that total whatever, or?
We don't know that. You know, that's been going around. There's so much stuff that goes around and around. And until you're there, you don't know. I hear med beds are not coming out until April. So.
But you're not ruling out the possibility of med beds as somehow being connected to all of this sooner or later.
I'm not ruling anything out because again, nobody knows until you're there at your appointment.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Yana. Susan?
Hi, Holly.
Hello.
Thank you again for sharing the information that you can with us. Thanks, NASCO, for setting this up. I'm in Scotland in the UK, and I'm fairly new, very new to all of this, actually, and I'm finding it quite overwhelming, quite almost unbelievable, actually. And I think it's an amazing opportunity to put us in a position to help others less fortunate than ourselves, and making difficult choices as to whether, like at this time of year, I always donate to a homeless charity, and I'm doing that thing where do I donate or do I exchange what I would normally donate to that charity to this, in the hope that I can then donate the whole exchanged amount to that charity. And is it too late to do those sorts of things?
So here's the thing you want to be really careful of. you want to vet all these charities, because a lot of these charities are really cabal fronts. So if, like the Red Cross, nobody ever thought the Red Cross was bad, but it's been proven, you know, they're adrenochrome harvesting. They take the money from all these disasters and they don't give it to the people. So any charity or place that you want to donate to, make sure that they are vetted, that they are really who they say they are. Don't just go donate money to a charity. Investigate them. Find out where that money is going to. Is it actually going into the hands of the people? You know, you might be better just reading the newspaper and finding out the hardship stories, somebody that had a fire, somebody, you know, that's losing their house and you want to pay off their mortgage, or, you know, has a child that's sick and doesn't have medical treatment. You know, those would be things that you could do locally in your community that would be more beneficial than just giving it to one of these large charity organizations.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing, as I said, fairly new to all of this, not a member of any of these groups that have been mentioned tonight. I sent away to an exchange in London, and, you know, with a relatively small amount of money, got my notes back at Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong. You know, I can't see that I'll be on a list anywhere to get an email to know when any of this is happening, you know, to set up an appointment. I mean, where in my local town could I walk into to arrange an exchange? It just doesn't compute. You know.
So what is your question? That is your
First
local
of all,
town going
how will we know when this is good to go, when we need to set up appointments? And the next question is, who do we set the appointments up with? Because in a really small town, are there going to be organisations that are ready for this? You know, that's my question.
Okay, so if you're in this room, then are you part of Telegram rooms?
I'm part of a Telegram room, yeah.
Okay, so if you're in a Telegram room, and sign up with Dinar Recaps or Bruce Big Call Universe and get put on that list, and all those Telegram rooms will be getting notifications. Like, we'll post it in all the rooms. You're not going to lose out.
Right, okay.
So, and then you'll be guided in your area where to go, what to do.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
You know,
that.
that's been the hardest part, because there's so little information, even for us in the United States. Where do we go? What are the details? They're not giving any of that, and they're not giving it for any of the countries. So it's being done deliberately, because the cabal has infiltrated these rooms. They're listening to our calls. They're not going to give out this technical information until the final end. So we have to just wait and be patient. Boy, that sun just keeps following me wherever I go.
And is it likely to be a really short window for exchange?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is it likely to be a really short window for these exchanges?
Again, we don't know. I've heard up to 30 days, you know, but I would get in sooner rather than later. You know, as soon as you've seen this posted, call and make an appointment. You don't want to sit and wait.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Susan, for your questions. Anyone else? Okay.
We love you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You are brilliant. Thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. You cleared so many type of information that I needed today.
Good.
Because I am belonging to another group, and that would be so beneficial just to keep them at rest. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
So just I was just going to say, there's nothing to stress over, everybody. Just, relax. Know we're coming up to the end of this, whether it, takes us to the end of January or whether it happens sooner. We don't know exactly, but you could tell based on world events, we're coming up to the end of this.
Amazing to hear. Before we say goodbye to everyone and wishes for a beautiful Christmas, Pinaki, would you like to say a couple of words?
Sorry, did you ask me?
No, Pinaki.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
No worries. Pin, you're on mute. I think Pinaki is struggling to unmute. Let me see.
I need to unmute and somebody needs to mute. Ah, okay. Right, sorry about that. Just realized I was muted. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, okay. In the UK, as far as trusts go, by the time the QFS or anything even happens, we'll have the information about what kind of trust and where to go, etc. So don't worry too much about that. As Holly said, nobody knows the full process. So, we're not going to have all the information to hand straight away. That's the way we like to live, but that's not the way things are going to happen. So when it comes to the time of the trust, before that time, we'll have information ready at hand. Don't forget, the elite have been using trusts for many years to avoid the system. Don't forget, to them, ownership equals liability. If you own it, there's a liability. That includes money, that includes your property, your car, everything. So if you don't own it, then there's no liability. So we're all going to set up trusts in advance, and we'll find out whatever the costs may be. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Think of your QFS account as a wallet that you can't spend out of. The only thing you can do with that wallet is move funds. That's it. That's what a QFS account is. I know people use different words, ledgers, etc., but the simplicity of it is basically it's a wallet where you'll be the only person with access, and the only thing you can do with it is move it to a bank account where you can spend it and do whatever you like with it. So that's the simplicity of what the system is. It really is simple. We tend to get too lost in too much of the technicals of what about this, what about that, and we're asking questions that really nobody has the answers to. We just have to chill out, knowing this process is going to happen, and mentally prepare for when it does happen.
I love that. I love the analogy of the wallet. That's a perfect way of looking at the QFS.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. And
Thank you, Pin.
I just want to say for everybody on this call, I don't know, your personal situations, but I know so many in these rooms are struggling, are in very dire situations, and so many are on their last leg. But it is real. Continue to believe, never, ever give up. Stay positive. You're in something that very few know about. You are a select few in the world. And just because you're part of this, you're blessed beyond belief. And I do have such a strong faith with God. And I just want to have God bless each and every one of you and hold you in the palm of his hand to carry you across the finish line, because I know so many are struggling. And I get horrendous stories every day of people, it makes me cry, people in dire straits. Just know we're coming to the end of this. So may you all have a very blessed Christmas, prosperous New Year. And thank you for putting this together and having such a wonderful showing of people to come on this call. So I appreciate it. Thank you. And I hope I've been able to answer everybody's questions. And if you need to have me back another time, you know, I'd be happy to. So thank you. Much love to each of you.
Thank you, Holly, for your time. On this call here, we're all seekers, and your care and wisdom are well received. We're most grateful for your time.
Thank you.
Everyone, enjoy the Christmas holidays. Take the time to reflect and improve, and we'll see each other in the trenches.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Holly.
Much love, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much. You've been
Thank you
very
so much.
educated.
Thank you. God bless you. Much love.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bless
you.
you.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Yeah.